Philly drill shifted heavy when FsDaBender came on the scene. From his roots in the 11th and Norris projects and 10th and Thompson to carrying YBC's name after Dull's death, his story is tied to some of the most violent years in the city. We'll trace how FS went from a smart kid raised by his mom and grandma to the face of YBC, his part in pushing name dissing, the wars he's tied to, the losses of Ike Rogers and Dull, his struggles with addiction, and how his music keeps him both famous and a target while fighting to stay free and alive. The rise of FsDaBender. FsDaBender, real name Kasim Brown, is one of the most talked about names in Philly drill right now. He carries himself with that reckless, no-filter energy that people compare to Beanie Siegel and AR-Ab before him. His fan base is loyal, and that's what's pushed his name into bigger conversations. After the death of his close friend YBC Dull, FS made it clear he was going to keep the gang alive online and in the streets, dropping back-to-back videos that each cleared 1 million views. FS openly admits the influence his music has. He said multiple times that when he drops a tape, the rate spikes, and he even recalls being locked up with someone who told him they were listening to his music right before catching a case. To him, that just proves his music makes people want to move on something. That rawness is part of why his tracks have gone viral on TikTok, mostly because of his insensitive lyrics and how little he seems to care about backlash. Around the city, FS goes by different nicknames: Fat Scene, Fat Stupid, Fat Ball, but the one he's been pushing heavy is King of the YNs. The term yin popped up in Philly a few years back, describing young dudes out here wilding, and FS embraces it fully. He calls himself the leader of the YNS, saying he's the embodiment of what people mean when they use the word. For him, being raw, controversial, and unapologetic is the brand, and he's banking on controversy to change his situation. FsDaBender was born in North Philly, coming up in the 11th and Norris projects, but also claiming 10th and Thompson, TNT, as well as 11th Street. His pops was from 11th, but most of his cousins and close friends were from TNT, and that's where he says he really jumped off the porch in his teenage years. Those day ones from 10th and Thompson shaped the path he went down. People who knew him as a kid described him as smart, pulling good grades in school, but the streets around him pulled him another way. He carried the nickname Fat Scene from young because of his weight, and not being able to play ball with kids his own age pushed him toward older crowds. FS makes it clear he'll always love his block, but he admits most of it is gone now. A lot of his friends from back then are either dead or locked, and he says all that's left are memories. He got the block tatted and says it'll forever be a part of him, but he knows he can't bring back what was lost. For him, it's about taking the lessons from that time and letting the rest go. At home, he was raised by his mom and grandmother. His dad was in and out of jail, and while FS says he lost respect for him at one point, he still credits his father with giving him some structure and teaching him things that made him a man. But it was his mom who really shaped him. She gave him the game raw, never letting him walk blind into situations. From early on, she made it clear there were rules, telling him straight up she'd disown him if he ever told. FS remembers that hitting him harder than anything his dad ever said. She played both roles, mom and dad, teaching him the realities of the streets while still holding him down. His mom also kept a practical balance, telling him if he was going to smoke, do it in the house, not outside where people could see and lose respect. And when it came to trouble, she was the one figuring out how to get him out of jail or pulling money together for bail. For FS, that loyalty and the way she raised him became part of the code he still carries today. FS has said plenty of times he looked at life realistically from an early age and decided those high-prestige jobs weren't for him. He grew up in North Philly watching the cycle around him: poverty, violence, and friends either locked up and that shaped how he saw his own future. He admitted he never pictured himself in careers people hold in high esteem, because for him, and a lot of other young black kids in the city, the barriers were already stacked high. School discipline, stereotypes from teachers, lack of role models, and constant economic pressure made the streets feel like the only path. His mom supported him, but also kept it real with him. She backed his rap ambitions and never hid the realities of what came with the life. In interviews, FS has described the way the block moved as punishment itself: blood for punishment, violence for violence. Stories from the neighborhood paint that picture clearly. He mentioned how one of his homies got beat so bad he ain't been the same since, and that kind of environment normalized extreme retaliation. He also recalled being ready to fight or knowing every day could turn into another test of whether you survive or get punished. For him, that's what growing up meant, choosing between courtrooms, jail, or another video. It's that environment that forged his mindset and eventually pushed him deeper into rap as a way to stamp his name. By the time FS was in his early 20s, he had already lived through some of Philly's most violent years. He admits school wasn't for him. He was smart, but he saw no future in what was being taught. He said straight up he only cared about learning what would help him survive. After multiple jail stints, he graduated and then jumped into rap around 2020 to 2021, dropping his first videos at that time. When he talks about his past, FS makes it clear he chose the street life. He strapped up, joined a gang, dissed the dead, hustled drugs, used drugs, and went headfirst into one of the deadliest North Philly wars, YBC versus CCK. That war alone set the tone for drill culture in Philly, and FS's involvement got him both and locked up. He knows the consequences, but says those choices were his own. Early FS tracks had a different flow. Back in 2021, his delivery was calmer, but by late 2022 into 2023, he switched to the aggressive yelling style that fans now know him for. Once he locked in that sound, his career took off. His lyrics leave nothing to the imagination. He raps openly about sliding and retaliation. Vivid details of and get-backs are what made his music go viral on TikTok and rack up millions of views on YouTube. For FS, drill wasn't just rap. It was an extension of the life he was already living, a way to stamp his name on the culture while keeping YBC's presence alive in both the streets and online. Back in North Philly, one of the most infamous moments tied to FsDaBender happened when he was on his own porch. The clip circulated online and landed on Reddit and IG pages, showing FS posted up when gunfire erupted. Reports from fans who saw the footage said he was full-court blitzed with multiple shots let off at close range. Despite that, he survived, catching hits in his arm and leg. Some versions of the story say he was even stood over while down, but the didn't finish the job.
So do you know what's going on? Oh my gosh. And then they kept on shooting in after that. He said, wait a minute.
The scene got picked apart on Reddit threads like r/PhillyWiki and r/Cheericology. Users debated how he made it out alive, with some calling it a backdoor attempt and others saying it was just bad aim. On Twitter, a clip labeled FsDaBender, YBC, getting while chilling on the porch, spread fast, reinforcing the porch story. Instagram Reels doubled down, captioning it as a backdoor and confirming he only took a leg. For FS, the incident added to the persona he already leaned into, unfiltered, reckless, and impossible to knock down. Getting while chilling at home and still surviving only built his legend in Philly drill. To the fans and the ops, it proved the cycle he raps about, taking losses, giving losses, and still being outside no matter what. To FS, it was just another scar, another reminder that in this war, even your own porch can turn into a battlefield. FsDaBender didn't take rap seriously at first. He was fully knee-deep in the streets. Music was secondary. His name started buzzing in late 2021 when he showed up on YBC's group tape Teammates. That project was big for Philly drill because it introduced YBC to the wider scene with their reckless energy and their decision to start saying names on tracks. Before 2020, most rappers avoided that, but YBC Dull, F5, and FS made it normal to diss the dead directly. FS was part of that early wave, setting the tone for how raw Philly drill would sound moving forward. By 2022, FS started gaining traction as a solo voice. Around this time, he linked more officially with F5, Dull, and the rest of YBC, even though he had been around the circle since 2020. By then, everything within YBC was already lined up. Their identity, their sound, their approach. FS's style evolved too. At first, his early tracks didn't have the yelling delivery. But by the time songs like De Pavement dropped, that aggressive voice became his trademark. Fans reacted at first wondering if he was really like that or just putting on, but those who knew his background recognized it wasn't antics. The way people describe FS is simple. He's a villain in Philly. He plays into that image, but it's also who he really is. Even with rap money and millions of views, he admits he still rides around looking for licks, jewelry, pockets to hit, whatever opportunity comes. For FS, rap gave him a platform, but he never separated it from the life. He embodied the same mentality YBC was pushing: controversy, disrespect, and raw street politics turned into music. FS talks about his life with no filter. He brags that he's put in over 20 drills, even saying he can handle 13 ops with one hand. He admits he used to be the type who couldn't even be around other rappers because he'd just sit there scoping pockets, waiting for a chance to snake somebody as soon as they stepped away. For him, that mindset was normal. Always looking for a lick, always ready to take something. His lyrics back that up. One of his most controversial lines is, "I groomed since they was babies, so I'd be proud when they finally catch bodies." When pressed about it, FS doubled down. He explained he doesn't force kids into the life, but if he sees that dog in someone, if he knows they're built for it, he guides them, because the streets would eat them alive otherwise. He says most kids aren't cut for it, but for the few that are, he feels like he's good at spotting them and moving them in the right way for survival. At the same time, FS admits you can't change someone's mind once they're locked in. If a young dude decides this is what he wants, FS believes the best you can do is help him learn, even from your own mistakes. Some kids, he says, are just like him. They won't believe the fire is hot until they touch it themselves. For FS, that's the reality of North Philly. Either you survive with that mentality, or you get broken by the first situation that comes your way. FS always said some lessons can't be taught. You got to touch the fire yourself to know it's hot. That's how he views his own life, and that's how he moves with the young ones around him. He believes he has leadership enough to motivate people to slide or put in work for him. But he says every move he makes has a purpose, even when outsiders think it's the wrong way. In his mind, it's just as much about survival and loyalty as it is about image. In his raps, FS lays out the toll that life's taken. He said flat out that he hates it sometimes. He's got 28 homies locked, with 13 of them sitting down for bodies. Friends like BD and Curry loom heavy in his music, with FS rapping about missing them while knowing some will never come home until old age. Even as people call him the face of YBC, he says it don't feel right because most of the guys who built it with him can't be here to share the shine. Back in 2020, YBC's style was hated across Philly. YBC Dull especially caught heat for his raw delivery, with critics calling it Fed behavior or dry snitching. But even then, FS Dull and F5 were the ones pushing the boundaries, turning drill into something way more direct, dissing ops by name instead of just hinting. That shift changed the whole scene. Tested by jail, FS's rise wasn't smooth though. He caught a gun charge in 2022 and ended up serving 7 months, stuck while everything around him was moving. When he came home in 2023, the landscape had changed. YBC, once the most hated, was now gaining real traction. Duel had built a name through controversy. New faces like Skrilla were buzzing, and the war with CCK had gone public with names being dropped on tracks every week. Ironically, right after FS got sentenced in 2022, the track talk dropped. That record stamped his name in the Philly underground and made him impossible to ignore. From that point forward, FS wasn't just another YBC member. He was a centerpiece in both their music and the ongoing war that defined Philly drill. FS has been through jail over and over. He said 8 times by the age of 21. Every time he sat down, he'd ask himself the same question. Am I ready to stop, or am I going back to the same that landed me here? Most times he gave himself the same answer. He wasn't ready to change. But his last bid felt different. He admitted he started seeing himself benefit outside of jail, seeing rap open doors he never thought possible. That's when he realized Allah had given him another chance, a chance to actually flip his situation. Still, FS keeps it real. He doesn't deny the risk that comes with the life. He knows every time he says, "I'm not going back," it feels like he's just raising the odds that he will. So instead, he moves quiet, tries to learn from mistakes, and hopes the opportunities rap has created can keep him out. But the same live energy that makes his music go viral also shows up in his interactions online. On lives, FS is quick to call people out, argue, and press them to prove themselves. He'll clown someone for not showing their face, tell them to walk to 7-Eleven right then and there, or call them goofy for playing both sides. That trolling side of drill culture is something he leans into heavy, mixing street politics with entertainment, showing he's still active, still unpredictable, and not letting anyone question his gangster. For FS, jail is always a shadow, rap is a way out, and the internet is another battlefield. The mix of all three is what keeps his name buzzing in Philly drill. Even within Philly, people questioned if he was really stamped as YBC or just a hanger-on. Some voices said they considered him YBC when he was around, but called him a dropper when he wasn't. Others joked about him being from the north or the bottom, basically challenging his credibility and trying to box him in. For FS, moments like that are constant. Lives turning into interrogations about his set, his block, his loyalty. It's part of being in YBC, one of the most hated and most talked about crews in Philly. Trolls, ops, and even people in the city keep trying to define whether he's official or not. And FS responds the same way he always does, arguing, laughing it off, and making sure the attention stays on him. Villain or victim, FS sees the streets as a cycle. You give losses, you take losses, and it never stops. He said straight up, his side caught 6 bodies in a year, so in his eyes, there's no way they could ever be even with anybody. To him, that's just how it goes. The same you laugh about today will make you cry tomorrow, and nobody's going to show sympathy when it's your turn. You can't call timeouts because your mom's sick or your leg's broke. If you're in it all the way. He's lived it himself. After being twice, he said he refused to stay in the hospital. Last time, he ripped the tubes out and had BD come scoop him. He didn't feel safe lying there like a sitting duck, and he believed he could heal on his own. That was his mindset. No perks, no painkillers, no hospital bed, just get back to the trenches. But drugs are part of his reality too. FS has been open about popping perks heavy, and he knows the danger. He's seen how they twist your mind and push you to act in ways you never thought you would. He once described it like once you open the door to perks or any opiates, you open yourself up to you never imagined, different cravings, reckless choices, even behavior that feels out of character. In jail especially, he said doing 30s for months straight can change everything about how you move. That honesty is part of FS's persona. He glorifies the streets, but he doesn't hide the toll, the retaliation cycle, and the addictions that come with it. It's the reality he chose, and the only way he knows how to live. During an interview, FS admitted perks became part of his life heavy, especially after losing friends like TJ. That's when it shifted from casual use to abuse. He said he never got on Suboxone or methadone programs. He just went cold turkey and toughed out the withdrawals when he got booked. Still, he knows how dangerous it gets. Doing 330s a day, then catching a case, leaves you sick in the cell, unable to defend yourself unless you get on the jail program. In Bipping, he raps, "I can't go without my Percocets. I can't leave that alone, and I put dirty in all of my styrofoam." FsDaBender's life mirrors the rise of Philly drill, raw, chaotic, and impossible to separate from the violence around it. From a smart kid raised by his mom and grandma to the face of YBC after Dull's death, his path has been marked by jail time, addiction, loss, and survival. He turned dissing the dead into a Philly staple, survived things that could have ended him, and kept his name alive through both music and controversy. For some, he's proof that drill is lived, not just rapped. For others, he's the villain fueling cycles that never end. Either way, FS plays a central role in the culture, standing as both a product of his environment and a force shaping what Philly drill has become. If you like this video, click on a video on either side to watch a video similar to this one.